cousins were up there. And
all right, sorry about that, little technical issues.
Sailing cousin.
Okay, I think we're ready to go. I would like to call this meeting to order. I took a roll call while we were waiting, and I see that everyone is here but Carrie. So we have a quorum. We want to review and approve previous meeting minutes. Those were sent out, I saw. Anyone want to make a motion?
I will make the motion to approve the minutes.
Second? Okay, thank you. All in favor of accepting the minutes from the last meeting? Okay, good, thank you. All right. We always begin by stating our objectives for this recent year. First of all, we want to use safety as our guiding principle. Second, we want to develop complete streets policy or policies specific to Webster Groves. Third, we want to develop a traffic advisory commission process for evaluating citizen requests. And finally, we want to prepare a document of uniform criteria for parking restrictions. So those are the big four for this year. Next on the agenda, we want to invite our citizens, all of you. Thank you for coming. We would like you, if you choose, to make a statement. We limit these to 3 minutes. And the expectation is that this is your opportunity to be heard by the Traffic Advisory Commission, but that does not mean that we'll have time at this meeting to be able to respond in any way. So we want to take your input and hear what you have to say, and then perhaps find a spot for that objective in our future agendas. Okay, who would like to begin? And by the way, you need to state your name and address, and then you have 3 minutes to go.
And I'll be the timer, so whoever's speaking, I'll try to give you a 15-minute.
15 seconds.
So Chris, I don't know how you usually do this, but because we are recording and have cameras, it might be worth having somebody come forward so that they are also visible on camera when they're speaking.
Okay.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and start since I kind of started the petition. My name is Mary Becker. I live at 52 Marshall Place. We moved there in 1980. We lived there for quite a while. And we've had our share of parking issues on Marshall Place. I was looking back on my notes before computers, and in June 17th, 1987, we did meet with the Traffic Commission Advisory Board with traffic issues, mainly concerning the flow of traffic from the train traffic. And then we had proposed, maybe the street be parking on one side if it was 2 ways, or if the street was 1 way, then parking on both sides. And these were, quote, state recommendations from that time period, 1987. Since then, really nothing has been happening. So now we're jumping forward to 2024. Chalva is doing an incredible job at the Rolling Ridge Nursery, and we're excited about that, their business being successful, but it has caused a number of major traffic issues on our streets, parking on both sides, according to your policy where you're trying to establish the 18 to 26 and 26 feet requirements in the proposal. Our street, according to Jill Anderson, who thank you for measuring it correctly, from curb to top of the curb, 23 and 8 inches. The flat portion of the street is 22. That's without the curb. So 22 feet. That's parking on both sides, mostly Tuesday through Sunday, with semis going through the truck from deliveries from Rolling Ridge, which on Marshall Place down at the corner, there is a sign that says no through trucks. There's signs that say, you know, certain parking restrictions, Monday through Friday, no parking 8 to 5, but nobody, you know, they're kind of gone away. So there's, and then on Gore, there's 2-hour parking. A lot of people like to enjoy their coffee for, well, you have to wait in line for an hour. And then when you get your food, you sit around and you visit and enjoy the beautiful area. So that's probably over 2 hours. So parking is a very needed.
15-minute warning.
Right, so there we go. So hopefully with these new proposals that the Traffic Advisory Committee has put out last year, we can find a new solution for our street.
Thank you. Who would like to be next?
I'll go next.
Okay.
Adam Olszewski, 56 Marshall Place. Just kind of share a quick kind of story of what an average Saturday looks like and how it affects us, and potentially creates, I think, security issues or emergency issues if something were safety issues. Thank you. But yeah, I think it was 3 weeks ago. I was backing out of my driveway at 56 Marshall Place. It started out backing out to head towards Elm. Somebody was pulling out and somebody was trying to come through and it blocked off. So I just pulled into my driveway and then tried to go out the other way. And the exact same thing happened. And it took approximately 8 minutes for all of the parties involved to figure it out. So you could actually move down the street in either direction. And I think that's just a direct result of their, you know, when there's cars parked on both sides of the street, it becomes a one-lane, very narrow one-lane road. And if they go in one direction, nobody really knows what to do and you get stuck there. And it, as a safety concern, if there was a situation like that and fire or ambulance was needed or police, there's just no way to quickly alleviate that situation, even in, I think, an emergency situation. So that's all I mean.
Great, thanks.
Okay.
Okay.
Jeff Smith, 11 Marshall Place. I'm also chair of the Plan Commission. And the conditional use permit for Talbot was before us about 18 months ago. As some of you know, just real briefly, in order to approve a conditional use, that's a use that's allowed with conditions, the commission considers 5 factors, one of which is, will this use substantially increase traffic hazards or congestion? And at the time, you know, staff had identified parking across the street, across Gore and over on West Pacific, and they were, I think there were like 65 spaces identified. So we thought, well, you know, surely that's not gonna be out, you know, overused there. But with the, you know, with the overwhelming success, I guess, of Talbot, I mean, I would echo the others' concerns that it really does increase traffic hazards and congestion. So I think we're asking just for some relief for that. I think we're all happy that Talbot's doing well, but it has changed things on the street.
Thank you.
Are you okay?
You know these are rules, right?
Ma'am, I can't see you on the screen, so
I'm
if you
so
don't
sorry.
mind. Here, watch this.
Good enough, I'm here.
Oh, look at that. Thank you, Larry. Thank you. I am useful.
What I'd like to say is, Karen Finnegan, I'm at 55 Marshall Place, and a couple of years ago, we had a fire and we had 6 fire trucks on our street to help with our fire. And to think about that happening today or at a different time during the day, it would never happen. They would never be able to get down. I personally have lost 2 mirrors on the side of our car. I think everybody on the street has lost. I mean, David, you've lost how many mirrors? Everybody's lost mirrors because the traffic is so close when both sides of the street are parked. And the scariest thing I saw was some small person trying to go between the cars parked so close together, the oncoming car never saw him. And that really worried me because we have a lot of small children on our street. And if they were to dart between those parked cars to get a ball or to run across the street or do something, those cars coming down there would never see them because they're just too tight. They are so, I mean, tight all the way to past the middle of our street, that many cars. And dogs, animals, same thing, people walking, you know, even I have walked and done one of those when a car was coming up that I didn't see. And that really worries me. So I think safety is a real issue.
Okay, thanks, Karen. Who would like to be next? Yes, so can I ask you to
Sure.
come out
Get it
here?
in the limelight
Next
here.
to
I'm Lou Basso. I'm at 25 Marshall Place.
I'm sorry, say your name again.
Lou Basso,
Okay,
BOSSO. I'm actually really surprised that the town hasn't done anything about this up to this point, because the fire department, I think, has constructive notice that like you cannot get through when there's two vehicles on either side. They've known about this for a long time. We had a fire at Karen's place. I'm surprised that this is not standardized throughout the town, that like, you know, the street is a certain width and they have one side parking if this is going unaddressed. So I think this is an issue that needs to be solved, not, you know, next week or next month, but today this needs to be resolved, be fixed, because it's a serious liability issue for the town. So that's all I have to say.
okay, thanks, Lou.
Hey guys, sorry for coming and butting in real quick. It's our 35th anniversary, so we have.
You need to say happy anniversary on it.
You only get one.
My name is David Streeter. I've been on Marshall Place a long time. Obviously, the Talbot issue has just brought everything else that has already been there to a big issue. You know, this started back in the 70s when they put Elm through. Back then, as far back as back then, we asked for some kind of something on the street, because obviously it turned Marshall Place into the cut through so you could get around the train. And that's been going on since I think the early 70s is what that was. First protest I ever attended. You know, it's always supposed to be a no truck street. There's signs at each end. You know, not as much this year, but we still have semis coming up and down the street. You know, with the cut through, it's a racetrack now. It didn't used to be like that. You know, we've approached the city a number of times about speed bumps and things. You know, now we have, you know, Lynn McMillan, God bless her, you know, we put up with that. The semis you know, in the springtime have been okay. Her parking has been okay. She's a good neighbor to us. You know, it's an inconvenience in the springtime. We all know that, but I think we've all expected that. We all moved in before she was there before all of us moved in. You've added Telva. I was told at City Hall that there was supposed to be a parking study done before any of these places were allowed to open. I don't know if that was done or not, but I'm curious to see what the results of that have been. You know, I have a small business. I got a business license. I got to get to my garage. I'm a small contractor. Ever since this has happened, I got to wiggle my way down the tight street to get to my garage so I can get where I need to do my job. If there ever was an emergency vehicle, he might be able to squeeze through. If he had to attach a hose or something to that equipment, there'd be no way. You know, they block driveways. You know, I'm not in favor of a one-way street or no parking on one side of the street. That's not fair to your neighbor across the street. I don't want to park my cars in front of their house. You know, but we've got to, you know, I'm for the suggestion of closing that, you know, one side of the street down from, you know, 8 to 2 or 3 every day, except Monday. Telva's closed on Monday. You know, as I said, back in the 60s and 70s, there were 60 kids on that street. That's obviously long gone, but now it's regenerating. We're having younger families in with kids. They're parked from Telva, I'm down at 34, almost 2/3 of the way down the street. They're parked down to my house on Saturdays and Sundays. I've had box trucks. I've seen box trucks back up the street on Saturdays more than one occasion. You know,
Okay, thanks,
I
David.
hate to hit and run. I'm sorry.
Happy anniversary. Yeah.
But you see how where I'm at on this. It's been, you know, it's not just Telva. It's a racetrack. I don't know why the fire department won't let speed bumps put in. They're put in other communities. It's turned into a. Telva has just thrown it overboard.
Okay, thank you,
Telva's taken
David.
it too far. Thanks, guys. Sorry, I gotta go.
Okay, who would like to be next?
I'll say,
Okay.
Mark Anderson, 41 Marshall Place. I think everyone's kind of stated the same things. I think one thing that's important to note is across the street at the parking lot, it says Rolling Ridge parking only. So I don't know if people think I'm going to tell if I can park there. It doesn't specifically say that. So I wonder if people are like, well, I can't park in that. It's for Rolling Ridge customers only. The other big thing there is people do fly up and down Gore as well. There should be a crosswalk put in that says you must yield for pedestrians, or there needs to be a safer way to get across Gore as well. In my mind, it's not our street, but I think in general, for the safety of everyone visiting the businesses. I do think, I drove by Matt Road today in Brentwood. They have really nice speed bumps that are put in. They're rubber. They can be removed for winter months if that is a problem, but they're very, very nice speed bumps, and they've said it very well. People do fly down our street. The two-way parking is great because it slows people down, but you cannot maneuver our street. That's the one benefit to this, is that people have actually slowed down.
Till they get to 11.
Yeah, until they get down to the end of the street. So that's all.
Thanks, Mark. Anyone else? Yes, can we see?
Yeah, I'll stand up the rear and I might use that over there as an example. Kevin Hastings, 73 Marshall Place. So there's a couple of thoughts. One is I want to say again, like some others have said, the parking on both sides of the street makes it narrow, but it also slows people down. We've got the issue of the cut through when the train goes, they come down Marshall Place, they come down at a pretty good clip. So I don't know if there's engineers that can figure that out, but I know at least when there's cars on both sides, it slows people down. I would not be opposed to the current, proposal that suggests parking on one side of the street during certain hours of the day. But I'll also point out that Tevla's conditional use permit allows them to open at 6 a.m. and they also have evening events. They had 2 evening events over the weekend. So, maybe during their peak operating hours, it would provide some relief. But is 8 to 3 the right amount of time, or is it 6 to 6, or is it something else? I'll leave that for your discussion. Third thing I want to mention, I'm going to use this picture over here. One of the safety issues is that on Marshall Place, right here on this side of the building, it's no parking Monday through Friday from 8 to 5. On Saturday and Sunday, anybody can park there. So what you get is you get people parked up along here, you get people parked down to the no parking sign. And so that's what they were talking about before when they're saying, you can't get out because people are coming to turn right into Gore. They're trying to turn left onto Marshall Place to get to Telva. And so it creates all this blockage. And so it's just another thing. Finally, there's just not enough parking for the businesses. Schaefer Auto Body parks at least 3 cars on Marshall Place every day during business hours. The Telva people, their employees, except on Sundays when they can use the parking on, Pacific, they park on the street. So there's always 3 or 4 cars from Telva on the street on Saturdays and most days. So that adds the congestion. Lynn has her employees at Rolling Ridge doing a great job. They don't park on our street at all. They're parking down by their lot further on Pacific. And so they're really trying to help their own customers and everybody's customers by not using nearby parking.
The lawyers.
Okay, good.
And wanted to let you know we brought that in just for you.
Appreciate that.
Thanks, Kevin. Okay. Do we have anyone else that wants to? Yes, please.
Martha Hastings, 73 Marshall Place. I just have a question. And I know you said at the beginning that the commission would not have time to answer questions, but I just want to throw it out. I'm just wondering if there's ever a possibility of making it resident only parking at some portion of the street. When that should be considered.
That is a topic that is before the city council right now. We're talking about where that might apply, so stay tuned. Okay, thank you.
It's not in front of the council yet.
Well, it
Will be
is,
soon.
yeah.
But our parking recommendation, our belief is that public streets are for everybody. But if you're living in an area that's a congested area, that the residents deserve to have some reserve for them. So we're looking, our proposal has a shared aspect in areas that are congested.
If people stayed today, would they hear us discuss that? I think they would.
I think, yes, I think they would.
Thank you.
But you don't have to, but we've been discussing this since August, so I know we want to do it now, but we're getting very close to.
Please tell me it's the end.
Yeah.
It's never the end.
Okay, do we have anyone else who wants to speak? Yes.
Dave Buck, 17 years at 124 South Elm. I want to say two things. First, I want to thank the Traffic Advisory Commission and the Westfield Police Department for, even if they're temporary, some of the things that you've done on South Elm to calm the traffic. There have been police cars that have been parked along Elm, which has been great. There's been speed trackers, the radar stuff in a couple of positions. And this is my subjective opinion, just looking out on the street. I think that people have gotten the message, and I don't see as much speed anymore. So I think it really has helped. Most important, I think the crosswalk at West Cedar in South Elm is a huge thing. I know it's not finished yet because the streets haven't been painted, but the signs are up. And I think that's wonderful. And the reason is because South Elm is turning over. We just sold our house to a family with 3 young kids. A family moved in 2 houses down with 2 young kids. A young family moved across the street with 3 young kids. I mean, our neighborhood is old. I'm an old fart. We're turning over to younger families with kids. So that crosswalk is really important. The last thing I want to say is that Ann and Steve are not here. This is just my little editorial comment. The stuff going on in South Elm was all Ann, you know, and she's my friend. She's my neighbor. And she was the driver of stuff on South Elm. We were all very supportive, but she was the driver. And yeah, it was like a self-serving thing because she lives on South Elm and she benefits from it. But the point is that, excuse my French, I think it's crappy. I think it's just crappy. The city council did not reappoint them. And I've been to enough city council meetings over my career here that when people want to rejoin up, it's almost automatic. City council said, yes, come on in. But with Ann and Steve, no. I don't know why. I think it's crappy. And I think it's the city's great loss. So that's my point.
Okay, thanks, Dave.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I'm Lucas Stripmatter. I live at 125 South Elm.
Hey, there you go.
I've got 2 little kids. I'm an urban planner. I've been an urban planner for 15 years. I've worked for municipalities doing long range planning. I applaud the crosswalk at Cedar, but I also want to let everyone know that there's an issue there. So statistically speaking, that is what is considered a mid-block intersection. Traffic does not stop on Elm at Cedar. And according to the Federal Highway Administration pedestrian and bicycle statistics, multi-lane roads with traffic volumes over 12,000 cars a day see a drastically higher pedestrian crash rate. So we've heard about safety being the #1 priority today. That crosswalk, because it does not have any other traffic control measures, is statistically unsafe. Pedestrians that use that will be less safe than if that crosswalk does not exist. Cars do not stop there. So according to the MoDOT traffic volume estimates, South Elm has 13,691 cars a day. So that's 15% more than the highest level that they would recommend not having additional traffic control measures. So an additional traffic control measure would be lighting, speed table, speed bumps, anything stoplight. You know, half block north of that, the fire station has a stoplight. It has a stoplight to control traffic. There is no traffic control outside of, you know, a small little sign. So statistically speaking, pedestrians are less safe with that crosswalk the way it is configured without additional measures.
Thank you, Luke.
Yeah.
Sir?
Mark Aaron's, I submitted a proposal about Valley Road. I wish I'd brought in my Marshall Place seems to be way better represented. I brought my friends. So we're not getting our trash picked up. I know y'all talked about Valley Road before. It's a very narrow road. What we're requesting is no parking on trash days, which is Wednesday, and no parking on snow days. We were able to get 11 of the 12 affected houses. The 12th just moved in, and she actually bought the house but hasn't moved in. So there really is a consensus here to be able to address the issue. We miss either trash or recycling or lawn like every week. We do our best to not park there. You just can't stop lawn services or other folks coming to make repairs from stopping. A sign won't fix it. I mean, the fix here is Waste Management used to bring a small F-250 down the road. They haven't done it in a year and a half, and we just can't get trash picked up. So we'd rather have a small truck, but barring that, we feel like we need the signs. We did have a fire call this past 2 weeks ago on either a Monday or a Tuesday. Fire truck pulled up, went up Valley, and it literally took them 25 minutes to get the truck back down because they couldn't get through Valley. Not something we'd even thought of, but it is a risk.
Okay. Thanks, Mark.
Sure.
Just so you know, we did reach out to Waste Management.
Thank you.
Vera and I did.
Appreciate it.
Their response was, even with a smaller truck, if a car is parked there, they're not going to do it.
Yeah, I mean, being there for 11 or 12 years now, it just used to work. I get it's an expense for them to bring that truck through, but we just didn't see 100% hear you. I think
So I'll let you know.
I think they're wrong on that.
We did reach out.
I appreciate it.
Okay. Do I hear any others? All right. You are certainly welcome to stay and listen to the rest of this meeting. But this is your opportunity if you would like to get out.
Or at any time you choose.
Yeah, thank you all for coming. Thanks all for coming.
Is this part of the meeting on Zoom?
Yes,
The
yes.
discussion?
You can also join it on Zoom.
And it'll be recorded if you want to play.
Yeah.
Thanks for taking the
I apologize. I walked in late.
That's all right.
So good. You're right on
You
top.
did a good job of representing your neighbors.
They're up. Thank you all.
Let's turn it
I wish I
to
had.
advantage based on the numbers of people who live on both streets.
I don't see any hands raised for comments.
We have money, you have.
Thank you for all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. I picked a good day for your first visit. Pretty strong feelings about that, yeah.
There's no safe.
I haven't been to Telby yet. I guess I need to check it out.
Yeah, it's a good copy. Okay, I would like to resume. So I put this on the agenda. Oh, thanks.
Yeah, you can't close it all the way.
Yeah.
And it's not gonna stay. Well, maybe you have a magic touch card here. Cause it's an open meeting, so.
Yeah.
I'll open it up again.
Or I can do that.
So I put this item 6 on the agenda, discussion about traffic advisory commission leadership and membership, because we have a number of changes. So first of all, I want to introduce Eric. It's Tillman. Yeah, Tillman. So Eric is a newcomer. Thank you. Also, David has been replaced as our liaison person by our mayor. Madam
Yes.
Mayor Arnold, thank you very much.
And I'm gonna start by making demands, which
Okay.
is, I would like an agenda item, if I could, please.
Ah.
The city update, the city council update, which I traditionally do with boards and commissions. And if you don't mind, we can just put it near the end of the agenda, and I promise on long meetings, I'll be very short.
Thank you.
So regular item.
Regular item, yeah.
That would be really helpful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And when we get to that point, I'll talk a little bit about my view of the liaison role and
Okay,
whatever. So keep going.
and
Chris.
shall we do that this afternoon?
If you
Yeah.
don't mind, I'd really
Okay,
like to.
let's do it.
Okay.
All right, we got two more for you. So, as you can tell, Ann Barenkamp and Steve Ruzicki are not with us. Let me say that from what I know of the situation, has nothing to do at all with their participation on this commission.
So I'm gonna ask you not to, it's a personnel matter.
Yes.
From as far as the city is concerned. And
Okay,
so Ann and Steve are actually free to speak of it to all of you, whatever they would like to.
Mhm.
You right now, Chris, represent the city as the chair
Ah,
of this commission.
okay.
And so we, just as a matter of course, don't typically talk about personnel decisions.
okay.
Because, you know, that really is up to them to talk about rather than.
Well, that was
us.
basically all I wanted to
Oh,
say.
okay,
was-
sorry.
Was that it was a personnel issue. It did not have to do with our activities. So we shouldn't dwell on it, I guess,
Yeah,
was
yeah.
the point I was making.
Thank you.
And then finally, since we're talking about membership and leadership, I have asked to relinquish my role as the chair. I've done this for a couple of years now. I have some other things that I need to focus my attention on. I would like to continue to be a member of the group, just not the chair, because it takes up a good deal of time. So unless anyone has a huge objection, I think it's been proposed that not this meeting, but at the next meeting, you might identify a new chair and have a vote on that
So you'll be chair for some period of time going forward.
today.
That's it. That's it.
Well, I will not be here in July. I'll be out of the country. So that's when you would vote on a new person, and presumably they would take the role in August.
I have a question of how many vacancies are there right now? One, two, there are two vacancies.
And I'd like to thank you for a job well done.
Yes, thank you.
Kind of
Yes.
really.
I have
outstanding
really
job.
enjoyed doing this. But I'm getting crowded out with other responsibilities, so thank you.
I'm just gonna make a suggestion here that in terms of thinking about who might step into Chris's very big shoes here, that if any of you are interested in serving as chair or vice chair, that you let the staff liaisons and I know, because if no one has stepped forward, then I'm gonna have to do some recruiting. So also know that, because there is leadership that is, and I believe and by the ordinance, you have a chair and a vice chair, is that correct?
Okay.
We're supposed to have a secretary too, according to the ordinance, but we never have. Do we have?
I'm sure Aaron would really appreciate not being here if you guys decided to do that.
No.
Do we have a vice chair now?
Yes,
Clark.
Clark. Yes, and I will say that Clark has done a terrific job. He really has a passion about this role and the topic. And he is on top of far better than me in terms of having that knowledge of what's going on in the community. I moved here 30 years ago, and it would take another 30 years to catch up with what Clark knows.
Are you interested in the chair?
I would consider it.
Yeah, okay.
Now,
Now,
is anyone, I mean, you said that we should think about it till the July meeting, but.
Well, this is, unless the discussion is inappropriate, why not talk about it? I mean, so if you were not it, then someone else would have to, right? So that's kind of like, right? So, but if you're like, no, I want to, or
Yeah, I would-
recommend another person, even you might recommend another person also, right? Just because, why not? But
I don't feel entitled to it, so if anybody else is interested, let's have that discussion, but I would be willing to. The other thing that the ordinance says is we're supposed to do this every year. I don't think we have done that in the past.
That's what I'm aware of. Okay.
I would be willing to serve for, at least a year. But if somebody else wanted to, I think we should have that discussion.
Well, we have, okay, one thing that I don't like is vacancies when chairs are appointed, right? Because who knows what you would have had. Also, experience counts, right? So maybe those vacancies don't matter. Although they do get to perhaps have a say in the election. I don't know how fast they'd be appointed, so you can't wait.
I'm sorry, can you explain anything? I'm not following. What is your issue?
It's a view of governance that when a committee is short staffed people, when there are fewer people than it normally has, you're giving more power to people who are here. There's some pros to that because we're the ones in varying degrees who've been here the most. So we have the most experience in expressing our opinion. But technically our vote shouldn't count more, which it does when there are vacancies. This is traffic advisory council.
So I may make a suggestion that might solve your problem. Yeah. Certainly there's nothing that says you all cannot appoint an acting chair for until at least one of the vacancies is filled. I would caution about waiting until this. We have such a rotation of vacancies across all our boards and commissions. I don't know that you want to wait till it's full.
Yeah, that's useful information because it's, then we know not to.
Yeah. But certainly there's nothing wrong with appointing an acting chair for some period of time.
In my view of that, I'm just asking us if we want to fill those vacancies. I'm not saying, gosh, it's terrible if we don't. Right. So maybe, yeah, right. Given this slow rate of fill. Thank you.
Okay.
Well, as the vice chair, I fill in for you when you're gone. So I mean, I will next meeting. You're out of the country.
Thank you.
And an appointment was made just now. There are no more pending, are there?
Not to my knowledge, but I'd have to check with the city clerk.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, I would like to move on with old business. So I've got confirmed the elements of the proposed parking guidelines that were discussed on April 30th. So I passed out some handouts at the beginning, and I want to describe what we're going to talk about. So if you go to the first one that says April 30th notes, take one of those. So these were the notes that I took when we had our working session on April 30th. Now, the second piece of paper is the May 9th revisions. So at the end of the April 30th meeting, Robert volunteered to take the results of the meeting and meld them into page 5, which was the implementation part. Okay. And Robert, I think you did a good job. Okay. But as I read them and compared them with my notes, there were several things that weren't quite as I remembered.
Yeah. No, okay. It was, as I was doing them, they were somewhat difficult to interpret some of our notes and things. So
yes, I can totally sympathize. So what I did last Saturday was I took my notes and I took Robert's revisions and I compiled them with the original page 5, and I came up with this one that says compiled revisions. What I believe that these are very, very close to where we want to be. And I sent them out ahead so that you would have an opportunity to look at them and see if there was something missing. Robert sent me this today. I think you all probably received this. So he already gave me his input on these most recent revisions.
And let me say, it doesn't really change the substance of what you had written.
Just the wording.
Yeah, a few things.
Right. So I would.
And in addition, because, Eric hadn't seen.
Yes, right.
The original proposal, I sent that out. I don't know if you got it.
I don't know if I saw that. I saw these by email. I don't know if I saw that.
I sent you the first 4 pages
Oh, yes, right, of the rest of the story.
Thank you.
Okay. Because that gives you, you know. And this was
Oh,
actually.
yeah, okay.
This was the original page 5.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
But it wouldn't make sense.
So I have it?
Yes.
Okay. Yep. So I apologize for the confusion here, but there's a lot to look at. My goal for this evening is that if we can, I would like to reach consensus and move this on back to the city council for their final review. I know that's a lot to ask. Yeah, I'm kind of.
I think it's important to know that if it's not perfect, I mean, they're gonna tweak it.
Yes.
Possibly anyway.
Right.
I think that's really important to know that if it's like 90% there or 95 of what we want.
And for whomever is going to, on behalf of the city, is going to take this and turn it into a more official document, I'm suggesting that we not only give them these revisions, but also the notes so that they know where does this come from. It's described a little better in the discussion of the notes.
So what I would anticipate happening is you will send us the document that you have that defines the proposal as you all have agreed to.
Right.
Before anyone puts it in language of ordinance, I would expect the city council to spend some time looking at the policies themselves. Once there's agreement on what the policies should look like, then staff will put it in ordinance form or policy form, wherever we land on that as well. So to Clark's point, you all take this as far as you want to. I know you're probably ready to get it out of your hands again.
Imagine that.
Yeah, right. And then we'll look at the substance of the policy first before anyone worries about actually the legal language.
Okay.
I have a question just for background context. Who actually who actually owns these roads? Is it the city? Is it the county? City does?
There's a few roads that are county, like Big Bend.
Yeah.
You know, there's a few, Laclede, but all the city streets are owned by the city.
Well, that's not entirely correct. There are some streets that are private streets. None are adjacent to the high school, which has driven this conversation.
It is so nice having you.
When the city owns the road, do they have freedom to do whatever they want with the road? Are they subject to rules and regulations set by
ordinance?
So, and it's strictly city ordinance. They don't answer any county laws or anything.
So I'm going to defer, but I think that's really only on the county roads that we defer.
So isn't there some standard that's generally used?
There's
some ordinance or
guidelines, like if a stop sign comes up, there's certain guidelines.
So your stop signs all have to look identical.
Look identical, but there's also like how close to an intersection and different things that are what's that?
Is that the MUTCD?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm very good. Okay.
So that's how we make most of our decisions on.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Recommendations.
Gotcha. Okay, cool.
I'm not saying I'm super aware of it, just that things like that exist in UTC.
But in terms of like the street widths and those are things that this committee is.
If you look at our parking ordinances, it's a conglomeration of a bunch of different ordinances because as the neighbors have grown, those ordinances have kind of changed throughout time. So there's not like one set, and that's kind of what they're.
So you guys are trying to put together some guiding policies that can be applied,
in the future.
Not just on a one piecemeal situations, but globally is what you're trying to do, right? Is that kind of the
or
idea?
moving forward when we get recommendations, how we determine what we do with that recommendation.
So I think if you look, and Carrie is not here from another traffic, and she's put all the ordinances. I mean, there's, as Eric was saying, they're here, they're all different from different one-offs. And we're trying to make it a more equitable, more guidelines that are applied when, like, I think the Marshall Place is the perfect example of what we're trying to accomplish.
Oh, yes.
Because it's an area and there's a lot of interesting things that came out of that discussion because one is you think the new restaurant caused, but then they say, we've had these issues for a long time. And then, there's a couple of sticking points in here about, is it specific hours or is it 24/7?
And disagreement probably amongst them.
And exactly, I think we heard that today. So I think we've sort of gravitated towards that 24/7 is the right way to go if we're gonna put parking on one side of the street based on the width, because even if there's a congested period of time, it still has that same safety issue with the roads. But then it brings up that, well, does it make it more of a speedway? You know,
Which perhaps can be addressed in other ways, as they said.
Exactly.
Yeah, but we can't put a speed bump on every street. We just can't. And we get a lot of requests for that, or a stop sign, and we can't put a stop sign at every intersection either.
There are bad places, and their street Marshall Place may be, a unusually tough spot.
It's a cut through, it's a business, there's semis that come down, there's all kinds of.
That falls more on the police department, in my opinion, to enforce traffic in those areas. And when I hear these concerns, the first thing that I do is I will direct patrol to focus on these areas. And we'll put up, the countermeasures like the speed limit signs, and I can do those things.
Dave Buck just said that it was successful. Maybe periodically, once a year, once every 2 years, or whatever it takes. You can, those things will hold for a while.
I have a quick question for Laura or for Eric. When some of the comments that were made with the last speakers, when it becomes a real safety issue as far as fire, for example, getting through, when does the city act in an emergency capacity, or how is that decided? This sounds like the fire trucks cannot get on the street.
My guess is that we may have the same response here, which is I wrote that down, and the first thing I want to do is make sure the fire chief checks that out.
So
they may already have.
They would like the fire department would probably tell us if they're having issues. And I have not heard many issues.
But they did have that fire about 2 years ago. There was a pretty major house fire on there, so that would be a good one to look back.
I mean, if you look at a fire truck, it's gonna have difficulty getting down any street. Let's just be honest. I mean, there's a lot of equipment that comes up when, depending on how many alarms it is. So we just shut down the street. So we have to. There's ways to.
But to the idea of physically getting the truck through there, one of the things that most people don't know, and I didn't know until the fire chief told me, is the width of a fire truck really isn't more than the width of the typical car now. But what I will do tomorrow probably is, no, actually not probably, I will send it to the city manager and the fire chief if it came up, just to let them know that residents are worried about this. And if I were to predict based on past experience, the fire department will have somebody go by there and take a look and make sure they're confident that they can get access. Is there anything, do you all disagree with any of that?
No, I mean, the only issue would be that you'd have traffic coming this way and traffic coming this way, and they might have a problem. They wouldn't be able to pass with cars parked on both sides.
If people are losing mirrors, as we hear all the time in some places, sure, fire truck can get through, but clearly not good for.
And
there's a difference, right? And that's what the parking policy is, right? What's good and
Right.
appropriate policy versus what is an actual emergency.
What did they tell you the width of the fire? What is the width of a fire truck? 10 foot?
I don't know if it's on.
And the average car, they assume 8 foot. Okay, because if they.
That information.
I'm surprised Carrie doesn't have it on there.
They said that street's 22 foot wide according to the resident. So I mean, if you have, I think cars are less than 8, but like when you're in a standard traffic lane is 12 foot. I mean, 8 plus 8 is 16. Subtract that from 22, you've got 6 feet, right?
Yeah.
That's fire truck's wider than 6 foot, I would think.
Yeah.
Living on a street that has parking only all the time on one side, you would adapt. First of all, it's inconvenient, but when you see emergency vehicles, it sounds like we have all this room, but having seen it or the traffic flow, it's important that our street is parking only on one side.
I am leery of making changes when somebody says it's a safety issue.
Okay.
When you don't consult the rest of the neighborhood, because one person's opinion might not be the feeling of the entire neighborhood. Okay. That is my only concern, because safety is a buzzword. You throw the safety word out there, you're going to get attention right away on that. So to her point, I think that we could maybe look at how we address this in the future, and I get back to them.
And that would be your call, fire's call or whatever, not the residents.
Well, if we look at the guidelines themselves, we say may be implemented based on requests as requested by police. We say public works or community citizen. It doesn't mean it will be, just comes to attention. And if public safety is saying they want it, then we're not, we're not.
Even so, we still have to go through the process of going.
Of course.
Right.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's just the beginning.
If I could, I would like to pull us back to the
Sorry.
focus here for a minute. So what I would like to do, if this is possible, I would like to walk through this most recent set of guideline items, the bullet items, and also talk about what Robert has proposed for addition. If we could, and everyone agrees, we can move this along. Now, do we? Yes, I do. That's the whole packet. Okay. Now, what's the best way to do this? Do you want to look at these by exception? Or do you want to actually literally walk down through them bullet by bullet?
I'd like to withdraw number 1 and 4 off of mine.
Okay.
They could be just, if you all like them, that's great, but they're not super substantive. 2 and 3 I'd like to discuss.
Okay, 3, I can tell you right now, I can answer your question immediately. When the traffic is only on one side, then how do I say this?
We're looking at the compiled revisions.
Yes.
Yeah.
But there's another document, I think.
The number, or are you just giving it?
Let's not look at mine first. Let's cover the
Okay.
bulk of it
Fair
first.
enough.
At least for my part.
Would you like to just read through them and make a mark by any of them that you want to talk about? I'm trying to keep us from sitting here going through item by item by item.
I think, yeah, I agree with you on time. That's probably the best.
Is that okay?
Just go through it, make a note if there's any you want to talk about.
Right. So the suggestion is that everyone read through these quickly and mark any one that you want to discuss.
For the sake of conversation, how about we, on the compiled revisions, how about we number the bullet points so we can talk
All right.
about those? Or use them as references.
Okay.
Should we renumber it under shared parking policy? Do we start at 1 or do we start at 8?
Let's start at 8.
Okay.
Okay. We'll wait till everybody gets through them and then we'll start talking.
We're restarting to shared parking. Numbering.
No, 8. Continue.
Yeah, start. Yeah.
Numbering these. Okay, to help us reference them.
Could have that effect.
Eric, you saw the April 30th notes.
I believe I have those.
So I just want to point out that we all worked together and voted on a number of things. So like the decisions were pretty well worked through for years, right? So rewriting it isn't like in the cards exactly, right?
So you guys are just trying to make sure you captured the essence of what everyone thought they were.
Right.
Agreed.
Okay, right, exactly.
So Chris, the only one I want to talk about is number 5.
Okay,
We'd like to talk about number 7.
well, let's just start at the top. Has anybody got 1 through 4? Okay, go ahead.
So number 5 says the Traffic Advisory Commission will consult with the Police Department, Public Works Department as to which side of a medium width street should be designated no parking. Seems like that's a Public Works decision and not a Traffic Advisory Commission. It doesn't seem like that should be part of our.
I can accept that. Anybody else? No disagreement with me. Okay, so shall we take that bullet out completely?
Either that or say that Public Works will consult with the police department or with, to decide.
I think we could remove it.
I think removing it is good too.
All right, it's coming out. Hey, Robert, you had 7.
Streets for initial implementation will be those surrounding. I think we should articulate those streets.
Wait.
Number 7.
Oh, I see it. So where that came from was there was a tremendous amount of conversation about this at the beginning, and that's like 2 years ago. Now the city, the school board seem to have stepped up and are taking some responsibility for that, or at least they have said they would. So if that's true, then this one could come out.
I would not be in favor of that broadly because I don't think the school's actions are permanent enough. They're goodwill, good faith. I appreciate that, but that church parking lot could disappear in a day.
Yeah.
And I just think the problems that exist around the high school are real. I mean, they're going to stay real. I don't think it's going to go away, even with the school's efforts.
Okay.
I'm open to
I tend to support that myself, but that's just me. Anybody else? Any thoughts?
I just feel like it would get tricky naming particular street.
Well, that's why I almost think you should, because it will be tricky and political indefinitely. It's almost a never make a decision kind of thing.
Could that be one for the council to decide?
I'd almost say we make our recommendations and then they decide. What I'm saying is don't avoid a hard decision. People will be mad.
I'm not saying that. I'm
Move
just
to
saying.
it. And again, it's not we're deciding, but we're sort of putting something down in writing saying, here's the start. Decide otherwise.
So if I might just say something broadly.
Please.
Your job is an advisory commission on policy to us. We have to worry about the politics. I don't think you all should. I think you all, and this again is my personal opinion, not even necessarily the full council. You should send to us the best policy that you believe you can. We'll have to worry about the politics because that's part of what we do.
Thank you.
I do think that being vague is not, I appreciate what you're saying and I get that. Saying something that vague feels like you're starting to say we like it like this, but then not following through. I mean, it's almost like don't put a soft line in the sand, put none or put one. I mean, but thank you for listening to my opinion on that. I'm open for.
So your suggestion though is that we identify specific streets.
With the suggestion we've been given, or don't say where it goes at all.
See, I'm more inclined to go there.
Or, hey, it's a compromise. Just say, hey, this is a problem. Try to fix it as best you can. I'm okay with it. And that's what we're
doing. So, Clark, expand on that a little bit, would you?
Well, I mean, it says the streets for initial implementation will be those surrounding the high school. I mean, is that what we really decided?
Remember now, this is not the shared, this is safety. So before we can even talk about shared, we need to be very specific about which streets have 2 lanes of parking, which have 1 lane of parking, and which have no parking.
I think we're setting up a policy that citizens or the police will come forward with where they think there's a problem. And for us to name it here, I think I think we might miss one, or we might put one on that shouldn't be. I just think we're I don't think we know.
Okay.
I mean, personally.
Okay, so you're in favor of just take that out completely?
I would, but
I agree.
I can go along with that. It gives the city more flexibility.
Right. I mean, if Marshall Place is it's summer break and that's the real hot topic, then why are we saying we're gonna work on the the high school? I think the policy is that it's trying to be uniform and fair to areas that are congested. But I know it all started with the high school, but I think it's turned into something bigger than that.
We once discussed why not do it everywhere. And it was because, one, that's a burden across the city. And why not let it rise to the surface on its own as people say they need something? They will say they want something at the high school, right? All those streets are gonna say, please do that.
Well, they already have.
Right, well, I understand, but
okay,
for this, it's.
So for sake of moving this along, I guess I'd like to, do we have a motion for a vote on this one?
Yes, I move that we vote to remove 7.
Okay, anybody, a second?
I would second that.
All in favor? 3, 2.
I don't know that I'm allowed to vote.
No. Me
So,
neither. We don't vote.
So this one's going, that's what okay, so 7 we're gonna scratch it. Okay, starting on the shared parking ones. Who has one to talk about? Are there any other issues with this as it sits?
So you were going to describe the on median with street.
Yes, and that is.
So.
Yeah, I did actually. I voted not to do it. Yes. Thank you.
So my question was, why do we call out median width streets versus other street widths? And you said there's a reason, but I just didn't.
Yeah.
You were going to articulate.
Yeah, actually, I gotta think here for a second. Can't remember where I was going with that. So a medium width street has parking on one side. So your question was something about other widths.
Yeah.
I don't understand the question.
If someone has.
Yeah, it's right here.
Narrow,
yeah.
medium.
Eric has it here.
2. Do you have a third one that I'm missing, perhaps? I have a narrow and a wide. Is there maybe I'm just looking for that.
There should be.
Page 3 on what collected.
So do you have all 3?
I have all 3.
Okay. It's kind of been done off. So I think that.
I think what Bob's saying is why don't we say that for all 3 scenarios? Why is it just median called out?
Or at least explain why.
The medium street is 18 by 26 feet.
Wait, did you say the medium street? It has to only have parking on one side?
Yes.
Because so what would the street that we
just talked about?
Yeah, at Telio is 22 foot, but it has parking on both sides. So is that a medium street still?
So I think that one would be only on one side. If this were enacted today,
I see what you're saying.
We'd be taking
it to it. Gotcha, yeah.
Right. I believe 25 feet is where we go from a medium to a wide street.
26.
Yeah. Oh, 26. Okay,
but
sorry.
The question here is, this is under the shared section.
Right.
So on a wide street, if there's a shared section, why isn't it being called out like it's being called out for a medium street here? Of where that would fall in the street. That's what this is
Well,
saying.
if there's no parking on one side, I'm sorry, if there's no parking at all, it's not an issue, is it?
Well, no parking, that would be a narrow.
Right, and if it's a wide, we have resident only on one side and no parking, and open on the other.
Yeah, that's what the original whole
Right.
first four
So,
pages.
so you understand what I'm saying? It doesn't make sense. It logically doesn't make sense.
Yeah, so it's on one
only,
side.
it's only when you have parking on one side
Okay.
that it becomes an issue.
Actually, isn't it already described here, given this diagram?
Yeah.
So do we need to call it? I mean, is number 11 giving any more guidance at all? If you hand it to someone else and they'd be like, wait a minute,
Okay,
why don't you have wide? And you have to explain to whomever it is we gave the document to what was meant. That's not good.
I still don't quite understand your argument.
If you give this to a stranger and they say, oh, I see what you're gonna do on medium width streets, would that stranger from these documents really understand what happens?
But it doesn't
wide?
apply to the other two. You understand?
No.
Okay. So when there's a wide enough street that you have parking on both sides, then one side is gonna be resident only and the other side is gonna
Yes,
be
okay.
open.
Yes.
And if there's no parking at all, because it's so narrow, so it's logically impossible for that to happen to the other two.
I appreciate that. If someone reads very carefully.
Well,
That's
I'm
fine.
sorry, but you gotta think. I mean,
Do you anticipate everyone
Thinking is
that
a
reads your
requirement.
documents will think?
yeah,
That's not a good assumption. I appreciate the argument. I probably would say, because narrow streets don't have parking, we don't need to say anything, and for wide streets. This, we're not, I don't care. I'm just, thank you for answering my question.
Okay.
I'm okay with whatever we go forward with.
all right. Does anyone, do we need to vote on that one? Is that important that we wanna?
We only have one side of the vote. We don't even know what the alternative is.
You
So
know,
no,
the alternative is just to leave it be.
but yeah, I don't see anything to vote on.
Okay, all right. Any other items that we need to talk about in that third policy, parking policy section? Going once, going twice.
So is the time to make a motion to have you compile these notes and send it up to the
Yes.
city manager?
Rose sent it to me,
Or to,
Oh,
and I will send it to the city manager.
so I will update this based on our conversation
Check.
and send it to you. Sounds good.
I only.
But I think we need a, yeah, we need a vote.
That we do that.
All right, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second, okay, all in favor? Okay,
All right, just so we're clear, you're gonna compile
I'm gonna
the
check.
proposal, whatever the proposal is.
Yes,
And then through our regular process, and I don't know that you've had to do this yet, there is a form that gets filled out that you're making a policy proposal to the council. Are you familiar with that form?
I'll figure it out. I'll get it.
Now that-
And
you
it's,
filled that form out initially, so this would be like.
but we're gonna have you do it again, I
Again.
think, just
All right.
because it helps us keep track of the records and the workflow. And we use that to get stuff on the work session calendar. So
Great.
that'll help, it's really to help us rather than having you, it can be exactly the same with a new date on it, that's all it needs.
I'm sorry. Had a little bit of excitement.
Me too.
We spent some time.
I apologize if I seemed a bit pushy on this, but we've been talking about this for a long time. It's time to do it.
And I will just also give you the warning that we have a gap this summer in council meetings, so we don't have a second meeting in July. So I would not expect us to even be able to schedule this before August at the absolute earliest.
Okay.
I do understand around the high school, school is starting and there's some calendar issues to make this go forward, but just so you know,
Right.
that's what we're talking about.
Well, in light of what we've heard earlier this evening, this could not be timed better. Okay. The next thing I have on the agenda, update regarding the new process for requesting changes. So this is your fix-it form. Is that what we're using?
Yes.
Could I ask either or both of you to kind of give us a picture of where we are today on this?
So now there's that fix-it form. They can go online, fill that form out. It goes to Vera and I both so that we now have good communication. We then respond back in an email and then we will tell them kind of the next steps of the process, whatever it is they're requesting. And then we move on from there. And if it rises to the level that we think it should be a recommendation for TAC, we'll then make that recommendation to you to look at for future recommendations to council.
So is that like Valley?
Yes.
Did it go through that process?
Yes.
And then is that, so how is that captured? And then if it comes up to us, how do we,
Well, I sent that petition to you guys and
Yep.
it kind of basically broke down what happened in that petition. And then I can kind of fill you in if you guys have any questions.
and then how do we circle back to? I guess, how are they notified what's?
I'm in contact with them.
And actually, I want to build on what you just said, because this is a little bit of a bug for me. I put that action item list in place because I noticed that week or month after month after month after month, we would rehash what we did the month before, and then we'd rehash it again the next month and the next month, because there were never any records. There was no document to say, here's what we decided. And to track it through. So if
that Excel sheet that we gave you, someone needs to be the keeper of the Excel sheet. And I put that as one of the things.
Yes, you did.
I don't know who we nominate to keep that Excel sheet, but that's your record of the actions because it has it on the form. What the actions were, what the recommendations are, and we can just check the on the list. There's our record.
Didn't we debate the open records nature of it?
Can't do it on GDoc.
Right.
Now,
I just watched the meeting, so I know the conclusion seemed to be that it gets scanned and posted as a PDF because then that can be.
That's perfect.
Preserved as a record.
And it's posted at a place where citizens can go in and look at it.
It certainly can be.
It can be part of the agenda.
Okay.
It would be part of the minutes, but as Marie pointed out last time, is that it's always gonna be kind of like a month behind because it has to get approved. So if you bring it in and say, this is what we all did, and this is where we're at on it, then that becomes part of this meeting until this meeting's minutes are approved, then it really can't be posted.
It's a month behind.
Yeah, so it's always gonna like,
Flag.
the public part of it is always gonna be a month behind, but that doesn't mean that you guys are a month behind.
It also
Just
doesn't mean that the
maybe
requester's a month behind because
Sure.
the requester will have heard from
Yeah.
somebody as well.
But it's
Yeah.
just as far as the public record of it, being able for somebody to go online and look at it, it's gonna be a month behind, because it'll have to be approved with the minute, as
Right.
part of the minutes.
So-
before it's supposed to. It's pretty.
So here's where I'm caught in the middle here a little bit. Part of me likes the idea of having this list, this spreadsheet spreadsheet. Maintained by us, by the Traffic Advisory Commission. But if that's true, I think we're gonna have to appoint someone to be the keeper of that document. Because it's gonna be changing regularly. The other option would be to make that an assignment between Public Works and the Police Department, but who do you have who's in a position to do that?
And I'm gonna interject here and
Yeah.
remind you all that this commission cannot assign work to staff.
That-
You can make a recommendation, but you don't have the authority to say
Okay,
to our staff members, now you're gonna go do this.
of course.
Yeah.
So I'm sort of leaning toward someone in the staff taking a hold of this thing and running with it. But I don't know if you've got people to do that.
I'm more pushing that. You guys should say, you guys should keep what's your recommendations and what discussed in that meeting, and I kind of feel like I should fall on one of the planning members, but that's just my opinion.
Does that mean that, doesn't that suggest we could have a private Google Doc as long as we publish it to PDF to the website on a regular basis, because otherwise we're sending an Excel spreadsheet back and forth by mail, email. I mean, it's like tying your hands behind our back, but I get it if that's the way it really is. We're going to be sharing it anyway.
And so what would be on this Excel sheet? So looking at our agenda today.
It'd be exactly
Would it
like,
be
exactly what I sent, so I told you, hey, we've got these issues. We add them to the list.
Right.
And then we discuss, we make recommendations, and then we.
But then, so here's, like, again, I'm struggling here a little bit. I wanna do what.
Because not everything that comes to me needs to go to TAC.
Exactly. We don't want everything on that sheet. It's just stuff that comes here.
Correct.
And we need to, it's like your action list, it's just a different format of it.
I mean, and don't get me wrong, I don't care if it's a Google Doc or not. It just seems like,
Let me
everybody, let me
give you an example. We got, okay, go ahead. Request to trim bushes on Bush Terrace. This doesn't, I'm just giving you a visual. This doesn't necessarily need to go to TAG. This can be handled through a work order through Public Works. So that's an example.
That's a different question.
For some context, all these issues here, these come into being. Somebody says, I'm on Valley Road and I can't get my trash pickup. They call you. And I say, hey, I can't get my.
I usually will receive an email, or I'll receive a fix-it form, or Vera will receive an email depending on which category they file in. But we both get the same one. We discuss it. Then if there's a quick solution, we'll fix it. If it's something a little more comprehensive like Valley, then there's that process where we ask them to fill out a petition just to make sure that we have consensus with the neighbors, and that we're not only listening to one point of view. And then once we have that petition, I forward it to you guys and gals to make the recommendation moving forward. That's kind of how the process works.
So your spreadsheet is post fix-it and signatures.
So I don't understand that part.
Your list, the form.
We have an Excel doc, and I don't know that you've seen that was created by Paul Rensselaer. And it just kind of basically, because this was an issue that was brought up in previous TAG meetings, is there was no running. He was keeping his own action item list.
Right.
And so this was just a better way, we thought, to organize.
And we were worried that we weren't circling back to the person that did it. There weren't those boxes to check off like, yeah, it seems like we've heard about this one before.
So like on those bushes you pointed out, what would keep that off that list is the fact that
it doesn't,
you don't have to
it
signatures, you guys are just gonna deal with it.
It doesn't need to go to TAG.
Yeah, you guys just deal with it and never comes.
So we're getting closer. So there are gonna be fix-it items that have no business in TAG.
Correct.
And you're gonna worry about chasing those down and
Correct.
what's going on with them and what the priority is and who's assigned and when it's due and all that.
Correct.
But anything that is going to come to us, you want us to keep
the document alive,
the status. And if we do that, then that means every meeting, we're gonna run through that list and see where we stand. Is that the expectation?
If it's something that needs to be talked about that meeting. I mean,
So might I suggest, I know you've been working on this and I apologize for being the new kid on the block, but might I suggest that, you know, some of us, staff, council liaison, because we may end up having to ask for some staff time for this. I think there is a route by which that might be an outcome. Can we work a little bit on defining what comes forward to TAC?
Yes.
From a perspective, of
Yes.
what we now know, because now everybody's sitting at this table, I think, and I've watched several of your meetings, so I feel like I know a little bit about what's going on here. If we can do that, I think this whole process of who holds it and who does something with it becomes a lot simpler.
Amen.
So maybe if you could give us a month or two to work on that and get that done to you, as long as you two are amenable to doing that, we can then come up with something that is a little bit better defined for everybody.
Okay, I like that. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, terrific.
Yeah.
And I know a guy on the commission who, after August, might have time on his hands to do that kind of work.
I wasn't gonna volunteer.
Okay, so I think that what he's saying is let's just take until August to get this sorted.
That sounds like a great plan there. I'm willing to help you with.
I would
that.
love
just don't, I'm not clear on whose
The ambiguous-
responsibility
right.
is
Yes.
what at this point. And that would be helpful if that would be established first.
Yeah,
I would like to know what modern mechanisms we can use to share working documents before they become public documents.
Very few.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
I mean,
Wait, believe me, I've been round and round. We
Sure.
just, the Charter Review Advisory Board just went through all this.
so
so if we email each other spreadsheets, is that better? It doesn't feel better.
For now, that's all we have though.
Not
But,
sure
but
it's
actually,
allowed.
you won't be emailing them to one another. Someone will be keeper of it and it will go to Aaron to go out with
Yeah,
the monthly
right, they
documents.
can't be, if they can't be shared Google Doc, they can't be emailed either.
Correct.
Thank you.
Right.
Yeah.
That
So-
helps.
while you're thinking about this and looking at it, one thing that I think we need, this is my perspective, my opinion, is a flow chart. Where do these requests come from? Who do they have to go through? Who approves them at every step of the, you know what I'm saying? Because a flow chart really solidifies a process. It just helps.
Even if it's small.
Okay, I'll get out that. The next item I have, see, updates regarding pedestrian safety on Colebrook at the Hickson lot entrance. That was a subject of discussion at the last meeting. There's some question about what's gonna happen when the construction work is done. And I think the construction work is supposed to include a crosswalk. Where does that stand?
The school district is scheduled to be finished August 1st.
Oh, good.
So my understanding from the discussions with the school district is their plan is to monitor traffic, monitor what that impact is going to be once the configuration that they had in their plans is finalized.
Okay, so there's really
So-
nothing we need to do until they get some data to show what's going on. Is that typical for them to do it as opposed to the city doing it? The school board is really not.
I think, I don't know what's typical.
So,
Yes, go ahead,
The
Erin.
city already did the data study in that area. And
That's
that was
shared with you
discussed
guys.
last meeting, I believe. It could have been the meeting before.
Last.
That Eric, that Eric sent out. The numbers aren't there to constitute the things that were being asked.
Okay.
And then the school district said that they'd be done by August 1st, and then at that point, if it's still
Take
an
another look at
issue, then it comes back to the city. But if it just is if it's a dead point at that, then it's done. Yeah.
Okay, okay,
Exactly. That's
All
where
right.
we left
Okay,
it
thanks.
last.
all right. Sorry to rehash that.
You're good.
Okay. I got new business. So Marshall Place parking petition. Just what these folks were here talking about. Are we gonna wait to do anything until the parking thing is approved?
Are you looking for me for an answer on that? I'm willing to make a recommendation based on the amount of feedback we got. Same process as the other one to try to do some sort of action.
I just want to make something like one. Is it
Yeah.
for the parking?
Or, yeah. For whatever the recommendation is, I think the only thing we necessarily decide is what the recommendation is, because I'm not clear what that is. Is it conditional? Is it going to be just no parking on one side of the street?
So is
that's
it,
what you have to
can
do.
you do that
24/7?
for 45 days? Is that what it was?
That was an emergency, what do they call that?
Yeah, it's an emergency.
ordinance.
Is that what you're recommending, that we test it?
Yes.
And that's simpler because the city manager can do it and it can be implemented then much more quickly than if we had to enact an ordinance.
And I would say the same for Valley.
How do you determine the success of it or not? Do you talk to the neighbors?
Great point. Great point.
Usually we get feedback.
You just they're saying this is working or this isn't.
Mm-hmm. And I think based on the room that we probably get feedback.
In Swan, we got feedback, right?
Yes.
And it was positive.
depending on who was impacted by it.
Swan or Sylvester? Who
Yeah.
was that?
Yeah.
Our plan. No, I mean, who's, who?
So the people-
How
the
about the
people-
feedback?
the
I
people
got
on-
the feedback too, so.
People who are on Swan were happy with it. People in Sylvester were not because it just pushed the
Yeah,
problem
right,
to their street.
Which in the long run would be solved by continuing the path on out. I think it's
Swan was
Exactly.
But I just want to say,
It was
Tasser
It's very bad.
is
Gives me
your old
anxiety.
recommendation.
I know,
I think there should be a
I'm
vote.
there one day.
You guys want to vote?
I'll make a motion that the recommendation for the executive.
I ask you wait a moment.
Well,
I
maybe we
think
can
there
have
should be-
discussion after the
Okay.
motion.
Okay.
I think
Yeah, go
usually
ahead.
we'll have a
Yeah.
motion, we'll have a second, then
Okay.
discussion.
So Clark, you're moving that we
I'm
implement.
I'm moving that we have parking on one side
side.
of Marshall
Right.
and that we reserve half of the parking for residents.
Okay, I'm just gonna, again, just remind you, you are moving to make this recommendation to council.
Right,
Make sure we're
Right.
always
right.
clear on the language.
Yeah.
Right.
Clark. I would like to-
Do we have a second?
An emergency ordinance?
Yes.
Okay, we have a second. All in favor?
No, discussion.
Oh, sorry, discussion.
What I'd like to, what I wish also would happen would be that the traffic calming measures like we took on South Elm with speed signs and some police presence go along with that, because the citizens also expressed concerns about that one will lead to more of a different problem. If we combine those, I feel like they get more of what they need.
I guess we can
One is
recommend
not
that.
really part of it, that's just something I would do.
Well, I appreciate that, but traffic advisory council would like you to do both of those, is what I'm.
Okay.
Understood. So how do I go forward here? Do we?
You would like to amend his motion and add that.
Thank
Yes, I
you.
would. Do I need
A
to say
second.
those things?
A second.
Okay,
So any kind of traffic calming or signs or things, so it's not just now a new speedway.
I'd almost say,
You want
We
to
have-
address speed parking and speed, is what
Yes.
you're saying.
and rather than dictating to police what we would ask, that they take the measures that they take.
Right, and there's a lot more with.
There we
with
go.
Design, obviously, with, traffic calming that they
Okay.
probably don't have. The capabilities of doing in the short term.
Yeah.
The short term is trying to relieve the congestion.
I'm thinking the South Elm things that Dave Clark said were successful, whatever that was.
okay, so what I'm hearing is the motion is that we do the parking on one side. And
Reserve 50% of the
reserve
street. for
50% for residents. And ask our professionals to use their own judgment in how they, during this period, this 45 days or whatever, use their judgment on how best to implement that.
And it's a recommendation for the city manager to implement an emergency order.
Okay,
Because I think the words you used still didn't say. And police will take measures to reduce traffic speed.
okay, I'll take that, all right? Now, do we vote? All in favor? Okay, thank you.
They asked for us to work today.
Yeah, and just so you all here know, one of the things that I will discuss with the city manager is one of the two of us are. I don't know, maybe Eric or you are getting in touch with the ownership of Telva, because one of the issues was the signage about Rolling Ridge
Yes.
parking only. And the degree to which they can encourage people to park across the street will lead to less frustration
Right.
from their customers,
Right.
so we'll do that as
Yeah.
well.
We did not hear from them and,
Oh, no, I just thought you should know that.
No,
that's
I
gonna
agree.
happen, yeah.
No, I absolutely agree. But, there was no one here
Oh,
speaking
yeah,
on their
absolutely
behalf.
not.
So,
Reminds me of the union loafers issue when we had that.
oh, yeah,
They
right.
were so cooperative though. They were doing what they could.
Okay.
If this gets approved.
I wasn't part of that at all.
I think Aaron probably has.
What's that?
a template letter on Swan, letting the residents know what this does. Get
Okay.
approved.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
We could give
Yeah, I'll send it to you.
Hang in there, gang. We only got 3 bullet points left.
And I got one other, the mayor has.
That's right,
have
and the
her
mayor's
5
gonna
minutes of
give us-
fame.
Oh, I can do it less
And I
than
have
5.
I have a 2-minute new business thing too. that
Oh, no, I get
didn't
to
make
do
the
this.
agenda.
Are you doing this?
I was going. to,
No,
but-
I get to do
Okay,
that.
you get.
You can keep your copy.
Okay, a second one I have under
No,
new
no.
business, Planthurst and Jefferson traffic study.
I just got the data on that today. I'll take a look at it with Vera and we'll, kind of determine whether or not that needs to go any further.
Okay, great.
That was for speeding.
That was for stop sign.
Stop sign.
The Valley Road, trash pickup issue.
So
Are we waiting for data on that, or are we?
what did Waste Management, Eric, can you?
So the situation is, and I sent the picture, I didn't.
Right.
If there's any kind of car parked on Valley Road during trash pickup time, they can't make it down the street, so they just skip it. And so the residents don't get recycling or trash picked up on a regular basis. So he's just suggesting that they do a no parking on
Wednesday.
What was it, Wednesday or Tuesday?
Wednesday.
Wednesday, or to alleviate that issue.
But we all know that anytime there's a holiday, that date becomes Thursday.
Well, not any, there's just a
That's a good
few.
point. Yeah.
That's right.
There's only 5 holidays and if they happen to be on a Monday before, so it's a couple of days.
Not that
Does the
many.
city's contract with the waste management dictate what happens in that situation? Is there a city has a contract with waste management? What does it say about if they can't access the street? Is there any language?
I don't believe there's any language in the contract, but the city and this is a street, we get phone calls, obviously.
Because if these people, what happens is their trash doesn't get picked up at all.
Well, they'll just resend the truck the next day.
They do resend. Okay,
Yes,
okay.
we reach out, ask them to do collection.
Gotcha, and they do come back.
But the person has to then go through the process of saying my trash was picked up,
Yeah,
which is
and they're doing
hassle.
it every week, and it's
Yes.
Okay.
And
Great answer.
the contract doesn't say anything, but it's interesting, they used to send a small truck and now they
I thought that was
don't.
interesting too.
I mean, was that because the contract changed or they just
You
were
think you
like
spoke
being
with-
less nice?
I don't think it has anything to do with nice. I think it has everything to do with the automated trucks,
Yeah.
the safety of the people. They're not dragging, heavy trash cans, not getting hurt.
So they became safer.
Sort of safer for everybody.
But that's different than what they said about if there was a car there, they couldn't get a small one down there either, right?
The small ones aren't automated though. They're moving
That's-
away from the
yes.
small ones entirely because they want to be more automated.
I don't even know if they have that option available, to be quite honest with you, with the waste management. We need. Well, I'm not gonna say, it. There needs to be an alternative solution to, in my opinion,
And they basically said no parking on Wednesday, but.
That's exactly what they asked.
That's
for.
what exactly what they asked for.
Unless you run into a holiday.
Which-
And then
I
that's
think they
gonna
would,
happen,
I
right?
mean, we could ask Mark, but I think they'd be fine. You know, oops, 5 days. Or you
This
put
has
it with a
been
really weird
this has been a
sign.
reoccurring issue with TAC. He's brought it up once before. He was recommended to do the petition. He didn't do the petition. This time he did.
But did I hear him say that the sign wouldn't work? I thought I heard,
The
I
issue with
thought-
the thing with the sign is it's enforceable.
okay,
This is what?
enforceable.
We can write parking tickets.
And could you tell people too?
Probably wouldn't tow for that violation. We would write a ticket though. And I assume if you do it enough, people are gonna stop parking.
So do we have a recommendation to move it forward to?
That's what it sounds like to me, that we'll take their suggestion and try it. We might even do it for a period to see if it's gonna work. But maybe this one is not worth making an experiment, we just do it. Since that's what they asked for.
Right.
So we moved to recommend to council that signs restricting parking on Wednesdays.
We need a second.
Like a very.
I second that.
There's a certain kind of language.
All in favor? Okay, moving along. Last one on the item, last item on the list. Stop sign requests has been requested at the corner of Bush Terrace and Old Orchard.
Traffic count is up there now.
Oh,
We'll leave them out there for 7 days.
There's a work order or we'll put a work order in to get the butchers. I don't know that depending on if it's private property, what we can do in that regard.
The stop sign at Bush Terrace and Old Orchard?
No, there was something attached to that email about, overgrown, but yeah.
Yes.
So if it's private property, I don't know what.
It's in the site triangle. That's
Okay.
been both of the vegetation issues have been addressed.
Perfect.
The stop sign is traffic cameras are out to see if we have enough traffic.
So
for the
moving
stop
forward in the
sign.
future, sorry to cut you off. I don't know necessarily that every stop sign request needs to be, I think we should do these measures first before we bring them to your attention.
Because if they
And
don't
I think
want.
that'll be part of our
Right.
kind of
And-
decision rules.
Yeah. And actually, if Carrie were here, she would tell you, her vision is that all of these things should be in an ordinance, and the decision, we don't need to make those decisions.
It almost sounds like that's how you treat it anyway, because you're following some rules.
Well, you're anticipating part of what I had to say about my role of the data line, so. If you
Okay.
don't mind, I'll go real quick here.
No, you're
Before I do
on.
that, chairs should have received and liaisons a letter from myself as your mayor and council liaison. We reviewed the work plan for the year as well as the budget request for $2,500. Both have been approved. Only thing to mention was council was especially supportive of work proposed to educate residents about complete streets principles. As we know, that continues to be a big deal.
Thank you,
And
sir.
then I don't know to what degree this commission so far has been involved in the comprehensive planning process, and there's just an encouragement that this commission take part in that. To the point that we can even schedule for one of the meetings, some of the people on the project, our consultants, to come in and speak with you all or listen to what you all have to say. Or we can send them the parking ordinance as an example, or the proposal as an example of the kind of things you're working on. But the idea is as much input as we can get on the comp plan, the better the plan itself is. So, and then the last thing about what it says in this letter, and I hope you will especially read this part and know that all of you have many things that you could be doing with your time and talents, and we're very grateful that you're spending them working on behalf of your neighbors and our community. I am the new liaison. My liaison view is a little bit more active maybe than some of the liaisons that you might be used to. I will never try and influence the substance, or at least I hope I never, and you can tell me if I do, the substance of your recommendations. I don't see my job as to help you shape those recommendations, but my job is to help you figure out how to get things to council in that advisory capacity. And in watching your meetings and in, being here today, one of the things that strikes me about this commission is, policy advice is what you're supposed to be focusing on. There's a lot of getting down into implementation details that are better left to staff. And so one of the things I'd like to help you all do is, make sure that you have the time to focus on those advisory capacities and worry a little bit less about the implementation, because we have professionals who are very good at that. And I don't want that to be interpreted as taking away any of your policy recommendation authority. It's all there. It's just trying to help you sort through how to do your work a little bit better. And I plan to be here, and if I'm not here, that's because I will be on vacation. So, and then finally, just for a city update, we're going to pass the budget tomorrow night. It's a much better looking budget than we've had in the last 3 years. So that is definitely good news. And that really is our biggest item right now. But typically I'll try and give you a little bit about what we're working on as well, since you are all very engaged citizens, residents, citizens, whichever you prefer to use.
Thank you.
And I'm happy to be with you all, so thanks.
Yes, we welcome you.
Yep. Before you adjourn, yes, one quick thing. Crosswalks are sort of a passion of mine too, and hearing this gentleman today, I think it's something that we can really learn more about. There's some real there's some real data out there, and there's some real designs and different types of things like that that my wife, we cross that intersection all the time, and she said this is going to be dangerous.
Yeah.
You know, crossing Cedar. Now I'm the type that looks the car in the eye, and I boldly go out there knowing I can jump out of the way if I need to. But most people don't do that. They wait, and so they and so I think we can really improve our crosswalk design and implementation. I think it's something that I want to learn more about this year, and how that works. You know, the one right down here on Gray and Lockwood is really dangerous, and there's even little blinking lights. But,
Yeah.
But I think it's something that we could maybe come up with a policy next year on that.
On your list for FY25.
Exactly.
Would be great.
It sounds like an
And I wanted to
excellent
thank you,
implementation grant for
Chris,
us.
for chairing. And you won't be here next month, so I will step into that role next month. But again, if anyone wants to consider being the chair, you know, think about it over the next month, and we'll have a discussion.
I'll be smiling next month.
Where are you going? Paris?
Portugal. We're gonna walk the Camino.
Friends who were just back, you said it was absolutely amazing.
It is amazing. Yep. I'm leading a group of 12. I did this myself 3 years ago, and now I'm leading others. So. Should be fun.
Careful what you volunteer for.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Did we adjourn?
Yeah, we need a motion to adjourn.
Somebody, come on.
I motion to adjourn.
Second. All in favor?
Keep in mind that none of the three of us can make any motions ever. So.
Don't wait.
Or Aaron, because Aaron's over there probably like, I'm just gonna write down the motion before anybody